The rest of you have no fucking idea what I'm talking about. Which is good. It's going to be like that for the next 20 minutes. Yeah, my name is Owen Collins. That'll do. This first poem I wrote on the 12th of September 2015, which for hardcore Leninist Trotskyite entryists amongst you will recognise was the day Jeremy Corbyn won the Labour leadership election, part one. And yeah, it was the first time in my life that I've ever really felt politically, properly optimistic. I found out the news in an internet cafe in Camden. I then wrote a poem and got very, very drunk. And when I woke up the next day, I did something that I'd never done before in my life, and I joined a political party. It was the Conservative Party. I joined the Labour Party. And yeah, and looking back at this poem now, it feels like it was written 100 years ago. As I say, it's not often I get a chance to feel optimistic politically. Someone said last night at a gig I was doing, when you're a socialist you sort of get used to being on the losing team every time. And there's a certain amount of truth in that so far in my life. But I do think, like, that sort of hope and optimism doesn't come around very often, so we shouldn't take it for granted and assume that it will always be there. And B, I think it's still possible to get back to it. And I think we're going to have to fight for it. And I don't mean fight each other, I mean fight with each other against the people in this country who most need fighting, for the people who most need someone fighting for them. And so appropriately, this first poem is called You Can. Ready for Owen Jones. Sorry. Yeah, this first poem is called You Can Fight. Throw down your umbrellas, there's no rain on this parade. The future's so bright you might want to borrow my shades. Get on your feet, get on the streets, there's battles to be fought. So sing with joy as we deploy all that we were taught by Ben, Bevan, Beveridge and Bevan and 100 more besides. The heroes of the labour movement say it's time to pick a side. You can fight for inequality, you can fight for the elite, you can fight for the right of this shower of shite to save the streets from under our feet, or you can fight for those on the bottom rung, you can fight for society's lowest, you can fight for those who are vulnerable and who need our help the most. You can fight for the rights of the workers and also those of the unemployed. You can fight to rebuild communities that Thatcher's mob destroyed. You can fight for better investment in welfare, schools, the arts. You can fight for public ownership of what is rightfully ours. You can fight for redistribution of the RBS bankers' bonus. You can fight the agenda being set by billionaire newspaper owners. Or you can say he's unelectable, he doesn't stand a chance. And as the Tories play that tune, you meekly start to dance. But don't be so dispirited. Stand up and play your part and try and spread the fire that's still burning in your heart. Spread the fire. Spread the message, say it right out loud, because a revolution's coming and it's starting here and now. The future, it's a battlefield, but it's ours for the winning. So brothers, sisters, comrades, friends, this is just the beginning. Cheers. There's going to be a lot of politics tonight. So for those of you who came not expecting politics, some people like the decoration. Yeah, we're going to have a brief aside from politics. This is a poem about those particular reclusive activities that two consenting adults can get up to in the dark fringes on the sides of the trunk roads of Britain. I'm sure some of us know what I'm talking about. I'm sure some others have personal experience. This is called lay-by. Down the trunk road, past the verge, where the traffic starts to merge, let me be your concierge in the lay-by, baby. Give the car behind the slip, where the truckers have their kip and the cabbies spend their tip in the lay-by, baby. A curve of tarmac for no reason, sometimes with traffic policing, they sell strawberries in the season from the lay-by, baby. Fend off narcolepsy attacks with a range of tepid snacks, a burger and a Pepsi Max from the lay-by, baby. Have a brief romantic sortie down the side of the A40, take the keys out, let's get naughty in the lay-by, baby. Any old excuse to skive off, stop the wipers, turn 5 live off, a bit of fun before we drive off from the lay-by, baby. Undo seatbelt, help with yours while outside the traffic roars. Put your seat back, lock the doors, and be my lay-by baby. Thank you. That's it, back to politics. Hope you enjoyed that brief aside. Sexual proclivities. That one's for Keith Baz, if he's here. Did anyone watch the Olympics recently? I know someone did, but did anyone here watch the Olympics? Yes. Does anyone know who Peter Norman is? No. Thank you for answering that. That's better than just an awkward silence. Does anyone know in the 1968 Mexico City Olympics when John Carlos and Tommy Smith did the famous Black Power salute? Yeah? We all vaguely aware of that? Well, Peter Norman was the man who came second in the 200 metres that day. And not many people have ever heard of him, and I didn't know much about him myself until I decided to look him up. So this is a poem about him, but it's also a poem that if you believe in a cause that's not necessarily your cause, you can still, participate, you can still support it, and you don't have to either, walk away from it or make it all about you. You can do what you can without necessarily hijacking it, and that goes for everything from Black Lives Matters to the Virginia doctor strike. Just giving your support and letting people know that you've got their back is quite a powerful thing to do. I only wrote this yesterday, so I haven't learnt it, and it's a bit rough around the edges. But this is Witney. Anyway, He didn't put his arm up. Peter Norman, after a national record of just over 20 seconds in the gold medal race, it wasn't his place to put his arm up. Peter Norman didn't put his arm up. In that historic shot, as the two black men made the salute that meant everything to them, as the Star-Spangled Banner echoed around the Olympic Stadium, Mexico City, Tommy Smith and John Carlos inviting fame and infamy, but Peter Norman didn't put his arm up. And why should he have? This wasn't about him. Tommy Smith and John Carlos, this wasn't about them. This was deeper. This was a much longer run. This was a much harder fight, standing up for the oppressed, standing up for civil rights, and Peter Norman didn't put his arm up. He knew this wasn't his race, this wasn't his battle, but Peter Norman knew enough to know that this mattered. A silver medal round his neck, a badge upon his chest, stood with them proudly, head bowed instead, because he didn't put his arm up. And in the minutes beforehand, waiting in the tunnel, hearing the whispers of what was to come, he said, I won't stop you, I won't override. He said, I'll stand with you. He said, I'm on your side. But a pair of gloves forgotten, a protest not going as planned, it was Peter who suggested, just use the other hand. And so was born that image iconic, the globally broadcast statement of defiance, one left fist raised, one right fist raised, and one not with his arm up. And certain people didn't like it, kicked them out of the team, 4 years later killed their dreams. Some folk back home, they turned on them, but they're not fit to lace the spikes at them. Carlos, Norman, Smith, brave medal-winning three, courageous men of the podium, stood on the right side of history, side by side, and Peter Norman didn't put his arm up. The quiet Australian, an inspiration. If his name's been forgotten, let's remember his lesson. Solidarity, together, gay and straight, white and black. We won't steal your voice, but we'll always have your back. We won't put our arms up, but bow our heads and play our part. Wearing badges on days like these is not enough, but it's a start. So stand up, stand together, stand up for each other. Stand proud, stand tall, stand strong, stand tough. Because sometimes standing is enough. Woo, woo. I would like to dedicate to my brother. This is the first time he's ever seen me perform poetry, possibly the last. Yeah, we were talking not so long ago about the late psychologist Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, who was convinced that all men fancy their mothers and we're all just obsessed with penises the whole time. And then we were talking about the band Pink Floyd. And then we were talking about what a Sigmund Freud-based Pink Floyd tribute band would sound like. And so this poem was kind of born out of that conversation between the two of us. And I'm not sure if it's called Pink Freud or Sigmund Floyd. You're free to decide for yourselves, but this is it. All in all, it's just another dick in the wall. It's a highbrow bit. Yeah, this next poem is about the junior doctor strike I mentioned earlier. They're kind of on the horizon again. I'm sure you all have your own views on the junior doctor strike, and I won't tell you what to think, but very briefly, I do feel personally that this is sort of our generation's miners' strike, in that if we don't kind of stand up for doctors now, and if they lose this battle, then in 10 years' time the NHS as we know it will be gone forever. And so I think it's the second week of October when we start their 5-day strike. Again, you don't have to be there banging the drum all day. You don't have to be on hunger strike or whatever. Just find your local picket line, go down, say hello, and chat to them. Even if you don't agree with what they're doing, go and have a chat, and maybe you'll feel otherwise, maybe you won't, but these people are willing to talk. I think that's been made quite clear. It's a certain health secretary who's putting his fingers in his ears. Actually, when I say I've got a poem about the doctor strike, people think, oh, Jeremy Hunt, I wonder what rhymes with that. But no, we've had the smut. I know you want more, but behave yourselves. This is Witney. So this is a poem I wrote on the picket line at the Royal London Hospital earlier this year. And it's sort of based around the idea of the turquoise stickers they were giving out, which were really shit stickers. The term sticker does not describe that, like, they would fall off as soon as you put them on. Which hopefully isn't a metaphor for the longevity of a strike, but yeah, this is about anyone who works for the NHS who might be here. This is for you today. It's called Royal London. The wind carries a turquoise sticker across the picket line, and on the same breeze comes car horns, truck horns, bike bells and bus horns, tooted shows of support. It's cold, and I can't feel my toes or my fingers, but I can feel something else. The turquoise sticker is still swirling in the slipstream, dancing in the updraft. Signs are made, placards are raised to the rumbling grey Whitechapel skies. The rain shall not fall. Not today. Gun registrars, anaesthetists and GPs huddle together. Junior doctors and their patients stand together. Banners are hung up, pastries are passed round, and high above, outside the deep blue mosaic windows, the turquoise sticker is still floating, carried by a wind which wafts and drifts around the Royal London, which is blowing and transmitting the support that is still sounding from scooters, cyclists and cement mixers there behind you. The wind is behind you, it's blowing in your direction. The change is coming. Victory is coming. It's in the air for you. So, the monarchy. How do we all feel about the monarchy? This is Witney. Someone blew a raspberry in the front row. I like that. That is the best response to that question ever. Yeah. I'm not, like, calling for the guillotine. There's a few things about the monarchy that do annoy me. One is that I went to a university called Royal Holloway. And so everyone, like, whenever I say anything about the monarchy, everyone will invalidate it by saying, but you went to Royal Holloway, so you must love the Queen. Because that's obviously how you choose a university. You go to people who go to Nottingham Trent, oh, you must love big rivers in the Midlands. Oh, you went to Goldsmiths, you must love the procurement and craft of precious metals. You went to Imperial College London, you must love the systematic enslavement, rape and pillage of millions of people worldwide. All the bad guys of Star Wars. You went to the School of Oriental African Studies, you must love studying Oriental and African. That's one thing that annoys me about monarchy. The other is swans. The Queen legally owns all of the swans in England. The Queen and her family are the only people in the country allowed to eat swan. which strikes me as a socialist as very unfair. I think if you see a swan, it should be fair game. It's 2016, this needs to change. I don't mind, you know, the like £40 million hat in the carriages and the palaces. You know, I want to know what a swan tastes like. This is about that common feeling. And this is called Nationalise the Swans. Nationalise the UK swans, don't leave them all to Liz. Why should she have to have them all? She's got so much as it is. Her Madge quite enough come on in Windsor and the Mall, and then there's all the Crown estates. Does she need the swans as well? Nationalise the UK swans that Palace Gates will call, so we belong to the nation, common treasury for all. Let Parliament plead, let the swans go free, let them float to their own free will. End the privatised plumed privilege, have the taxpayers pay their bill. Nationalise the UK swans, let's act with compassion and reason. Take the signets for the people and commit avian treason. Don't let them be the plaything of the rich and the deluded. We are the 99% and we want the swans included. UK swans, the Queen just doesn't need them. Let's shout as one, liberate the swan and let on the Thames flow freedom. Because swans have dignity, swans have grace, swans are strong and vicious. Swans have elegance, swans have opulence, and frankly, look delicious. I think I've only got one more. Thank you very much for having me. If you want to know more about me, just ask. I don't have a website or anything like that. I started building one like a year ago, and it's still haven't finished. So if you don't want to know more about me, it's probably normal. I won't take it personally. This final poem is about a man called Muhammad Al-Ajami, who's not a man many people have heard of. He is a Qatari poet who in 2011 wrote a poem broadly saying that the Arab Spring was a good idea. And in response to that, the Qatari government threw him in jail and gave him a life sentence, later reduced to a benevolent 15-year jail sentence on appeal. And regardless of your views on the Arab Spring and whether it was good or bad, and regardless on your views of whether people should be put in prison for poetry, which I'm sure after tonight people will be reconsidering. I think it's a pretty downright terrible thing to do. And I used to say when I did this poem, you know, we take our freedom of expression for granted here, because that would never happen here. But you know, I'm not so sure anymore. You know, the last 6 months have taught me I don't know as much about what's going to happen in this country as I thought I did. And if it gets worse, nights like this will be the first things that will get stopped, and that would also be quite annoying because I'm having quite a nice evening. But and there's loads of beer backstage. But yeah, no, seriously, we need to make sure we don't take our own freedom of expression for granted, and B, do what we can to stand up for people elsewhere in the world who have had theirs taken away from them. I actually found out recently that Muhammad Al-Ajami is now a free man again. No one's quite sure why, but after spending 5 years in jail, he was pardoned, and he is now out of jail. But I'm going to still do the poem because there's a couple of 100,000 other people like him, I'm sure, who have been put away and incarcerated just as a matter of what they believe or what they say. And even if you don't agree with it, you know, even if you don't agree with what they're saying, you shouldn't just take people and put them in jail. For fuck's sake, it's like a basic human principle, and so many governments and that worldwide don't seem to have a handle on that. And if we can do what we can, I don't know what that is, but if we can do what we can to remind them that actually that's not on, that'd be good. So this is called Free Muhammad Al-Ajami. This is my last one. Thank you very much, you've been lovely. Woo! Woo! The pen is mightier than the sword, or at least that's what I was told, and sticks and stones may break my bones, but a government can't be overthrown by just the power of words alone, or can it? No, it can't. But even if you think it can, there is no excuse for jailing a man who can do no harm except for cause alarm with his call to arms. It's not the poem that makes the difference, it's not the song, be it yours or Bob Dylan's, because everything hinges on the person that listens. They're the one that will change the world, not the one who spoke, but the one who heard. By writing, by singing, we're planting a seed for the minds of the ones who can listen and read, and once they've got the message, they'll plant one of their own, and before anyone can stop it, the idea has grown, and from that call to arms alone, we're more powerful than any number of sticks or stones. Until, that is, the one on the throne decides what's being said is inflammatory, decides to change the record and start a different story, decides what the people can or can't say, what they can or can't hear, and this king, this emir, this sultan, this prime minister or this president plays God with the language and sets their own precedent, but the world has 7 billion writers in residence, and no one has the power to silence them all, so if we all shout together then the tyrants will fall. But we're ready. The Kangaroo Court is in session to deal out repression to our freedom of expression, and how had we so quickly forgotten the lesson that was taught to us by Pussy Riot? If you won't treat us equal, then you can't keep us quiet. Mohammed Al-Ajami, wife and 4 kids, and now a life sentence for a poem he did in which his biggest crime was to say what he thought of the Arab Spring, to express his support, and it's landed him 15 years in jail as reward. But let the world know he will not be forgotten as he spends his life in that prison cell rotting. Those who are left, we still have a voice, and when you've got a voice, that gives you the choice to call out oppression wherever you see it, to fight injustice and never to flee it. And when they ask what gives us the right to take on dictators, autocrats and tyrants, we'll show them our poetic license, because from London to Moscow, Cairo to Harare, in the face of repression, we are all Qatari. It could be you, it could be me, it could be prose or music or poetry, and if the ruling classes don't like what we say, well then bollocks to them, because we're going to say it anyway. We have a freedom to say what we like, a freedom to move, a freedom to strike, and the freedom to think, to speak, to write is more than just poetry. It's a human right. Thank you. Good night.